Hello everyone, this is Andrew with PokePhenomenal and, well actually this is our first video. So, me and the other person on this channel, Mike, say hi Mike,
Hey.
did a lot of thinking as to what our first video should be. We knew we wanted to make content for the various challenge runs and Nuzlocks we had come to enjoy so much over the past year, but the best way to do that was a question we just couldn't seem to crack. I think we were maybe a little nervous about making a good first impression, and because of that, we spent a while sitting on our other ideas, waiting until that elusive first video concept would appear to us. But sometimes, the right idea isn't going to just come to you, and so I think it's fitting that our first video came not when we had planned it, but when we were recording a hardcore Nuzlocke of Fire Red and Leaf Green just as a test. We never expected this run to make it into a video, and in a way I think that makes it even better for the job. And the fact that Fire Red and Leaf Green is our favorite game to challenge run is really just a bonus. But anyway, with that background out of the way, let me explain the point of this video. Me and Mike, say hi again Mike,
Hey.
are both going to attempt a hardcore Nuzlocke of Fire Red and Leaf Green, with the goal of seeing who, if either of us, can win it all. If you don't know the rules of a hardcore Nuzlocke, I'll explain them briefly. There will also be a list of rules in the description, so check those out if you want a more detailed look at them. But in short, the hardcore Nuzlocke rules are as follows. Normal Nuzlocke rules apply, meaning we can only catch our first encounter in any given area. We must nickname that Pokemon, and if that Pokemon faints, it dies. The two of us do, however, run Dupes Clause, which means we're allowed to re-roll our encounters in any area until we find a Pokemon that's not yet part of our team. In terms of the hardcore rule set, we restrict ourselves further by playing on set mode, banning the use of non-held items in battle, and banning the use of certain special Pokemon, like legendaries, static encounters, and gift Pokemon. Finally, we enforce a level cap for each gym and the Elite Four, meaning our Pokemon must not exceed the level of their ace Pokemon at the time we enter the gym. And there are a few extra rules that we enforce in certain situations, but if those come up, I'll be sure to fill you in. On top of these rules, something we like to do is play Nuzlocks against one another, completing a run of the same game at the same time to see who can come out on top and finish the run, or in the case that we both finish, who can win in a direct head-to-head using our championship teams. This way, we can challenge ourselves not only by making the game more difficult, but also by knowing that we have someone in the real world to beat. And that's what we set out to do with this run of Fire Red and Leaf Green. So without further ado, let's get started, and I hope you enjoy. We start out our journey normally enough, shrinking down into the world of Pokemon and checking our trainer IDs. This is how we'll determine our starters, and we see that Mike will be picking Bulbasaur, while I start everything off with a Charmander. Although I'm not thrilled to see Mike rolling the Pokemon that near guarantees a victory in the first two gyms, I take it in stride, and we enter Oak's lab to add Moop the Bulbasaur and Cholby the Charmander to our teams. This is only the beginning of our challenge, but we already have a bit of a mountain to climb. The first fight against our rival is hardly more than a coin toss, and as you'll soon see, luck isn't always on our side. To the point that when we started, I even dropped this line at Mike. Yeah, battle one wipe incoming. But first, let's look at my battle. The first rival fight has a simple game plan, and after a few scratches with Cholby, we achieve our first victory over our rival Geki, and the Nuzlocke begins in earnest. Mike, however, doesn't have such an easy time against his rival. And though I could explain to you what went wrong, I think it would be better to show you.
Don't you crit, you son of a...
Holy sh**.
Well, he's not even
I'm
damaging you?
He's been using Tail Whip.
Oh god. Oh god!
Oh god.
Oh god, I wiped!
No, move!
Move!
It always hurts to see a Bulbasaur go, but after sending Moop off, Mike decides to restart, this time with a chipper Charmander named Derek, and he engages his rival once more, ready to avenge the fallen and... yeah, he wipes a second time. Sometimes you just have bad luck, and while I wait in the lab hanging out with Cholby, Mike starts his third run, rolling a second Charmander who we decide to name... well, I should probably show you this too.
I just have a really dumb name.
Go ahead.
No. We'll get demonetized.
What?
Dick card.
First name Dick, last name Hard. Nice to meet you.
God, imagine that's your, like, if that is your actual name.
Your name is Richard Hard.
That's pretty great.
If you don't want us to get demonetized, you can name him Rich Hard. Because that's like... his name is just Richard with two H's.
God. That's great. All right.
I hope Richard doesn't die.
Yeah, I hope you make it, buddy.
Don't crit.
Oh my god! This is unbelievable.
Okay, so maybe the name is a little crass, but do you see the boundless optimism it filled us with? We really thought that little guy was going to make it. So, yeah, Mike wiped a third time, at which point we started to think this run might be cursed. But a little curse never stopped Mike, and he restarted his game one more time, rolling his third Charmander in a row. And I'm sure you can guess what we named him. We decided to forego common decency and christen this Charmander Dickard Hard, nicknamed Dick, younger brother of Richard Hard. As it turns out, Dick is a fighter, and with some well-placed scratches, Mike is finally able to begin his journey for real, carrying forward despite constant hardship. With everything finally kicking off, we grab Oak's parcel from the Viridian Pokemart and grab our Pokeballs. Now we can finally start getting our first encounters. For Mike, he picks up Earl the Pidgey, Cab the Rattata, Tongs the Spearow, and Sonar the Caterpie. Though he would have liked the Mankey, this is a pretty good spread for Brock, and we're feeling decent about his chances. Meanwhile, I catch Delia the Rattata, Rudolph the Mankey, UV Radiate in the Pidgey, and Blorbo the Caterpie. This is a pretty standard early game spread, but the addition of the Mankey makes it hard to imagine I'll be facing much trouble in the first gym. With our teams rounded out, we finish up Viridian Forest and Camper Liam without any difficulty and make our way to Brock. Given this is our first big fight of the run, we're both pretty excited to see how we'll do. Like I said, I don't envision much of a problem for myself beating Brock, so I decide to go first. So Brock opens up with his Geodude and we send out Rudolph the Mankey to take him on. I go for Karate Chop to start and actually end up getting the crit, which takes the Geodude out in one hit. Brock follows up on the Geodude with his Onix, which is a little scarier. I go for Low Kick to get that extra damage, but we don't take him out in one hit. We get hit with a Rock Tomb, which is a little scary, but I decide to go for a follow-up Karate Chop, which actually crits again, and guarantees that we take out the Onix and finish our Brock fight cleanly. And that's badge 1 down. Next up is Mike, who has a more interesting time in the first gym.
It is kind of crazy, like, you know.
No!
Not the Butterfree.
Oh no!
God, the Butterfree was actually a good. I was just saying, like, it is crazy. Just like you can get a pretty good bug type for like a rock gym.
You spoke too soon.
Don't miss Metal Claw. Oh my god.
Oh god.
Am I wiping to Brock?
You can't risk it with the speed fall.
But like, what am I supposed? Like, I can't. What do I? Not mine.
Oh no!
This is it.
You can't switch out
Unless I kill. Oh my god, that is nothing.
Holy shit!
Why is this happening?
Poison might help you do it.
I'm dead.
No! No!
This is unbelievable.
No.
This is actually unbelievable. Oh, now
now he misses.
God.
Just quick attack. Holy shit.
Well,
Dick hard.
that's...
Like, you're still in it, but at what cost?
I feel like I should just reset, like...
You can't. You have to take this forward. As you can see, everything has started to fall apart for Mike early, but nevertheless we carry on and move forward unceasingly. It's what Dick Hard would have wanted. Next, we make our way toward Mount Moon, catching Soft Boy and Soft Girl, the Jigglypuffs. And though we're excited for this, we realize Mike now has 4 normal types on his team, which may be a liability in the future. In Mount Moon proper, Mike picks up Wilbert the Geodude, while I add Sakura the Zubat to my team. We don't have any real issue with the Rocket Grown or the Super Nerd, and after picking up Mega Punch and Mega Kick in preparation for Misty, we move towards Cerulean City, welcoming Kelly the Ekans and, with a timely Office reference, Ryan the Spearow to our teams. Because of our level cap, from here there isn't much for us to do but take on our next challenge in Misty, one of the hardest bosses in the game. We know things could go south here, so I try to check in on Mike to make sure he's doing okay before the big fight. I want to hear, how are you feeling before Misty, Mike, just in case everything goes horribly wrong?
I mean, I feel okay for Misty. I mean, we'll see.
And with that, we fight Misty. Misty starts off with a Staryu, and I pull out my Fearow Ryan, going for Fury Attack because if I were to get 5, it would take it out in 1. We get 2, and the Staryu goes for Harden, which will make it a little more difficult in the future, especially when I miss my next Fury Attack. The Staryu gets Recover, and I go for Fury Attack again because it's still the best option, and we get lucky and take it out with a critical hit at the end. So Misty follows up after the Staryu with her Starmie, and I first go for a Leer, hoping to lower its defense and make it a little easier to take out, but I get confused, hurt myself in confusion, and am forced to switch out into my Pidgeotto. So with UV Radiating, we get hit with the Water Pulse immediately on switch-in, and I start with Sand Attack, just hoping to lower its accuracy and buy me some time throughout the fight, but I do have to switch out again to Blorbo, my Butterfree, and go for a Sleep Powder, but I missed the input and hit a Confusion, which really does not put me in a great spot, but I decide to take the risk and go for another Sleep Powder, barely surviving the Water Pulse and getting the Starmie to sleep. At this point, I have a pretty difficult decision on if I should keep Blorbo in and go for a safe switch or waste a Sleep Turn and switch out. I decide to waste it and go into Delia because that's going to be a better option. And I actually start with a Scary Face to lower the Starmie's defense, just to make it a little easier to take out. Rather than go for Hyper Fang here, I decide to go for Quick Attack just for the perfect accuracy, but it ultimately doesn't do enough damage, and after the Recover, I decide to go for Hyper Fang again. Starmie luckily misses the Water Pulse, and I'm able to go for one more Hyper Fang and take the Starmie out. As always, Misty was a bit of a challenge, but with a little luck, we're able to get through it with no losses, and we're feeling good, like the two of us can really do this. And then, everything goes horribly wrong.
Oh, I missed. I got confused. Personberry.
Oh!
God. That did so much. I mean, I guess I might have to just... Oh, it's faster, so this is pointless anyway. Okay, Oh my god,
Oh no!
Well,
no!
this is it.
Soft Kill!
God. It's like I'm...
Oh, not your Wigglytuff. How do you recover from this?
God, it's like I've never played Fire Red and Leaf Green before. Oh my god, like I'm probably gonna wipe here.
You might wipe here. Oh god, the Starmie used Recover. No, Cab! The crit
Oh
would
my
do it, that might
God.
be a range.
A roll?
It wasn't a
That's
range.
it. It's over.
No!
I
No!
wiped to Misty.
Now hold on. It might use Swift.
Oh my god, magnitude 10.
Magnitude 10.
Come on.
Magnitude 10.
Little bird.
Oh my god. 7. That's not gonna do it. Oh my god.
Well,
Oh my god.
I can't believe this.
To be totally honest with you, I'm still surprised things went this poorly for Mike. We've completed dozens of Fire Red and Leaf Green Nuzlocks, but sometimes I guess you just don't have it, and this was one of those times. So, a heavy air of grief and regret hanging over us, my team and I say goodbye to Mike and move forward, the untimely death of a friend clinging to me like a dark shadow. After Misty, the next step is to take on our first mandatory rival fight, but this doesn't end up being much of an issue. Delia is able to take out all of Geki's Pokemon herself, and we blaze through the Nugget Bridge to catch Robe Mage the Bellsprout and a very lucky Abra, who I named Dill Pickle. I don't know why. Next, we help Himbo Bill with his Clefairy problem, take his cruise tickets, and then head down toward Vermilion City, grabbing Nyathan the Meowth on Route 5. While I could take a Route 6 encounter here, I decide to hold off just in case I need to pick up a backup encounter for the team later. It's just about time to board the SSN, but before I do that, I pick up a few integral members of the team, Belarus Poland the Diglett and Laydude the Magikarp. Belarus Poland is going to be important to our upcoming Surge fight, while Gyarados is just a Pokemon you want to have when you're not banning him. We make our way through the SSN smoothly, and I pick up a few items here and there before challenging Geki one more time. So Geki starts out with his Pidgeotto, and we send out Ryan the Furo again, because we can start off with Fury Attack and just try to get as much damage as possible for the start of the fight. We hit 3, which isn't quite enough to take it out, but luckily the Pidgeotto doesn't go for Sand Attack, and we're able to finish it with one more Fury Attack. Geki follows up with his Raticate, and we follow the same plan as usual, using Fury Attack and hoping to just get a lot of damage. We get 3, which isn't so bad, but the Hyper Fang does do a decent amount of damage, but we get lucky with a critical peck, which takes out the Raticate. He follows up with the Kadabra, which is a little bit scary because of its power, but I feel that Furo is still going to be able to take it out, so I go for another Fury attack. 2 hits isn't quite enough to do it, but he just disables the Fury attack, and we finish off the Kadabra with Peck, and we actually get a level up on Ryan as well. So Geki finishes with his War Turtle, and I forget the Fury attack is disabled, before switching over to Robe Mage, my Victory Bell, just to get that super effective damage. We go for Vine Whip, and it does a decent amount, and it seems like I'm going to be able to tank the bites, so I just continue with the Vine Whip strategy until the War Turtle is finished, and we finish the SS and Geki fight without any issues. With Geki dealt with, he runs off, and we rub an old man's back in exchange for the Cut HM that will give us access to the next gym. Before Surge, I pick up one last encounter on Route 11, adding GBs the Drowsy to the crew, and head off to face Surge. Surge starts off with the Voltorb, and we send out Belarus Poland the Diglett just to try to finish it off. We go for Dig to avoid the Screech, and hit it with Dig, which kills it in one shot. After this, Surge decides to go for his Pikachu, which isn't a huge issue for me. I go for Magnitude, which might have been a bit of a risk of a double team, but I figured I was faster. We hit a Magnitude 6, which takes the Pikachu out in one hit, and we actually get a level up on Belarus Poland as well, although I decide not to teach it Mud Slap. Surge finishes off with his Raichu, and I make the decision to go for Magnitude just because a big Magnitude is going to kill it in one shot, and that's actually what happens with the Magnitude 8, fainting the Raichu and finishing off the Surge fight. Surge can be a really scary fight, so I'm glad to be past it, and I'm feeling pretty good as I make my way toward Rock Tunnel and the next portion of the game. On our way, I pick up Wanda the Sandshrew and Vod the Voltorb before entering Rock Tunnel. Unfortunately, at this point I missed an input and accidentally killed my Geodude encounter, meaning we don't get one for Rock Tunnel. But one missed Geodude has never stopped me, so we continue to make our way forward. Rock Tunnel itself is generally kind of boring, but as Mike has already gone to bed, I'm joined instead by our friend Eric from Half Phenomenal. Say hello, Eric.
Hello there.
And we're able to get through with a lot of jokes about Lightning McQueen. And that's not a joke. Eric and I really did talk about Lightning McQueen pretty much the whole time, and I am mercifully going to spare you the pain of it. Right, like, Lightning McQueen is alive, and he is godfather to my baby boy. Once I'm through Rock Tunnel, I decide to skip Lavender Town for now, and head over to Celadon, trying to catch a Vulpix, but in my greed,
killing it with a critical payday.
Luckily, I'm able to take the second chance on Route 7, and catch Bup the Vulpix. Before fighting Erika, there are a few necessary errands that I take care of in Celadon, so we pick up the tea, catch Socks the Doduo, grab the Fly TM while saying hello to the chunky Furo in this woman's house, grab some essentials including TMs and evolution stones at the department store, and we even grab the light screen TM from this little girl on the roof, just in case. On top of that, using the tea I'm able to make my way into Saffron City, and we grab the all-important Psychic TM from Mr. Psychic, before heading back to Celadon to face off with Erika. For this gym, my plan is really just to use Furo, but I have a few Pokemon on backup duty just in case things go south. So Erika starts off with the Victory Bell, and like I said, we begin things with Ryan the Furo, going for Fly and avoiding the Stun Spore, and then hitting the Victory Bell for super effective damage. It actually doesn't take it out, but luckily it misses the Poison Powder, and I actually think for a minute here and decide to go for a Leer, predicting the Hyper Potion from Erika and lowering its defense to make it a little easier to take out in the next hit. So we go for Fly, avoiding another Stun Spore from the Victory Bell, and this time with that lower defense we're able to take it out. From here, Erika decides to go into Tankla, and given this thing is not very strong, I just use Fly, avoiding a Poison Powder, and hitting it for all of its health. So the Tangela wasn't really an issue, and we actually get a level up on Ryan out of it. Erika sends out her Vileplume next, and I decide to go with the same strategy, using Fly and avoiding a Stun Spore. I hit the Vileplume with Fly, but it doesn't actually take it out, and luckily it misses a Stun Spore, but this time I accidentally go for a Leer, which leads into a Paralysis. I decide to go for Pursuit, get hit with Acid, but I'm luckily able to take it out with that Pursuit. All in all, Erika wasn't really a problem, as she rarely is, and I gratefully take the Giga Drain TM before we enter the fast part of Fire Red and Leaf Green. After quickly switching up the team, I run through the stupidly designed Rocket Hideout, shake a man down for his key, and finally face off against the Rocket Boss himself, Giovanni. Giovanni starts off with an Onix, which is not really all that scary given Onix is poor everything. So I just use a single Water Pulse, which is enough to take it out in one hit. From here, Giovanni sends out his Rhyhorn, which suffers from pretty much the same issue as Onyx, so we use another Water Pulse and take the Rhyhorn out in one hit as well. From here, Giovanni sends in his Kangaskhan, which is a little bit more scary, and I actually decided to go for Dragon Rage, although the Fake Out prevents me from using it on turn 1. Dragon Rage does a set amount of damage, and because I'm able to tank these bites without much of an issue, with 3 Dragon Rages we're able to take out the Kangaskhan, a Pokemon that would otherwise be a little bit difficult going down without any issue. Giovanni seems to take losing to a 10-year-old pretty well, and hands over the Silph Scope, which allows us to head back to Lavender Town and finally tackle the Pokemon Tower. There's a rival fight here, but we're really over-leveled for it at this point, so it's not an issue. And as we climb the tower, I grab Vaplord the Ghastly, take the Ghost Girls out, calm down Cubon's mom, and defeat the Rocket Grunts to meet up with Mr. Fuji at the end. We're then able to grab the Pokeflute from Mr. Fuji and head back to Celadon City so we can wake up the Snorlax, quickly run away in fear, and maneuver our way through the Cycling Road. Given this is a direct line to Fuchsia City, not much happens in between, and before we know it, we're in town and ready to go for our Safari Zone encounter. There are a lot of good Pokemon you can grab here, but as we saw when I killed that Vulpix, I'm greedy, and I would really like a Dratini here. I head toward the Safari Zone, ready to try my luck at one of the game's rarest Pokemon, and realize I need a Super Rod. So I head east of Vermilion City to grab the Super Rod, but before I do, I make sure to also grab the Item Finder, which lets me take a Leftovers from underneath the Snorlax. Getting the Super Rod, I decide to fly back over to Celadon City and grab the second Leftovers, while realizing that it's absolutely wild they give you 2 of them in this game. Now that I have the Super Rod, I'm finally ready to try for that Dratini, and I realize I want to Staryu and might as well try for it now. Our first attempt is on Route 16, but I unfortunately end up catching Eugene the Krabby instead. But given that I really want this Staryu, I fly back home to Pallet Town and use the Super Rod to catch Binch the Staryu, who is going to be absolutely huge for the rest of this run. Okay, so after that long diversion, I finally move into the Safari Zone and start fishing for the Dratini, one of the few Pokemon left in the game that can drastically alter my team composition and carry us the rest of the way through the run, and I get the Seaking. And then, to add insult to injury, the Seaking actually proves impossible to catch, and I miss the encounter completely. But that's okay. That's okay. Disappointed, I quickly make my way through the remainder of the Safari Zone, picking up some nice items like Sunny Day, the Quick Claw, Double Team, and of course the Warden's Gold Teeth and Surf. Having the Gold Teeth, we're also able to pick up Strength, meaning we now have access to 2 of the strongest moves in the game, and Leydude has suddenly become a lot scarier. I do a little team building and leveling here, and before long I'm ready to take on Koga, who I'm not really worried about given my wide array of Psychic types, including GBs, Dill Pickle, and Bench. Koga's level cap is technically 43, but since this is the same as Sabrina's, I elect to keep everyone at 41 to avoid over-leveling for the next gym. This is the first of 2 very distinct decisions I made before fighting Koga. The second is that I decide to give Shadow Ball, one of only 3 TMs I'll be able to afford at the game corner by the end of the game, to Delia. This is because it'll be useful against the early trainers in Koga's gym, but also because I plan to use Shadow Ball Raticate against Sabrina and maybe even Agatha. Now, were those 2 decisions bad decisions? I'll let you watch and decide for yourself. So Koga starts off with the Coughing, and we send out Dill Pickle the Kadabra, hoping to sweep everything with Psychic, which we do to the Coughing, because it doesn't really stand a chance against a Kadabra with Psychic. We're sitting pretty as Koga sends out the Muck, and we go for another Psychic, which doesn't kill, and then Koga hits Minimize, which is really where our problems start. We miss our Side Beam, and Muck hits Sledge for massive damage, which also poisons, and at this point we have really no choice but to switch Dill Pickle out. I go into Binch because that seems to be the best option, and after tanking 1 Sludge I go for a Psychic, which misses. We get hit by a second Sludge, which of course poisons, and we have to switch out to our second backup in GBs. GBs comes out into a Sludge, which of course poisons again, but I decide I have to go for the Psychic just to get the Muck off the field. But we're not in a great position right now. Koga sends out the Coughing, and I know that I have no real choice but to at least take it out with GBs, even if I'm taking that extra poison damage. And then Koga continues on to his final Pokemon with Weezing, who is scary enough that I know I have to switch out. I go out into Ryan, just hoping that I'm going to be able to do enough damage, and also avoid the accuracy drop with Keen-Eye. I go for a Drill Peck and get hit for a ton of damage with Sludge, so I decide to go for Fly, just to avoid taking any extra damage. Fly doesn't do a ton, and we get Toxic, so we really have no choice but to switch out Ryan as well, going into Delia. So Delia goes in and takes a sludge, which does a lot of damage. And at this point, looking at my damage on Delia and the damage on the Wheezing, I'm forced to make a call. And I decide that Hyper Fang is definitely gonna kill. A Hyper Fang will kill.
If it hits.
I'm risking it. It didn't kill! No!
Live!
Live! Please! Delia! And through an absolutely incredible series of events, we have our first death. This is obviously not what I wanted to see happen, and I really didn't expect it to go that way, but we have no choice but to continue on with the fight. So I take a look at my team and bring Cholby in because he's the only one that's not on death's door, and go for the flamethrower. Koga heals up, so we're actually hitting him at full, but the flamethrower does a good amount of damage, and I'm able to take him out with the second one. And that's probably what I should have done in the first place, but it's not, and I have to live with the consequences of that. So I'm just going to say Koga messed us up, and way more than I would have thought. But thanks to Delia's fearless sacrifice, we're able to get the soul badge and the toxic TM and continue forward. I really wanted the deathless run, but ultimately it was my own hubris that prevented me from it, and unfortunately Delia, my precious companion from Route 1, is the one who paid the price. I'm sorry, Delia. Without my Shadow Ball TM, I'm a little lost for what to do going forward, but between now and Sabrina, we still have to deal with the situation at Silph Co, so I decide to focus on that and switch up the team a bit to tackle it. Silph Co is a really big dungeon, but you really don't have to fight very many trainers to get through it. So after a few encounters with the jobbers, we find ourselves at our next encounter with our rival Geki, who has seriously leveled up since our last run-in in Lavender Town. So as usual, Geki starts off with his Pidgeot, so we decide to go with Vod just to have the electric type on the field. And while the Pidgeot does some quick attacks against us, I actually decide to go with Charge just to make sure that I'm taking the Pidgeot out on the first hit. And after dealing with the Pidgeot, Geki sends in his Growlithe, which uses Intimidate on us, but that's not really much of an issue, so I decided to just hit it with Spark. It doesn't kill, and we get hit with the Flame Wheel, but the second Spark is able to take the Growlithe out, at which point Geki switches over to his Execute. Because Vod isn't really going to be very useful here, I switch over to Cholby just to have the Fire type on the field. Execute hits us with a Stun Spore, which unfortunately gets the paralysis off on us, and then we get hit with Confusion. We get confused, but luckily we're able to hit through the double status and take the Execute out with one Flamethrower. Of course, after this, Geki switches over to his Blastoise, so I get Cholby out of dodge and send Leydude in to deal with that. And the plan here is pretty much to have Leydude tank as many hits as possible from the Blastoise, while just whittling away at its health with Strength, so that's what we do. Of course, the Blastoise uses Protect, and it takes a little bit of time, but Leydude is able to tank it out well enough that we hit our strengths, and we actually get a second strength in a row here to feint the Blastoise and move on to Geki's last Pokemon. He sends out the Alakazam, and I decide to keep Leydude in, and the Alakazam goes for Calm Mind, which is kind of scary given that the strength doesn't kill here, but I just decide to go for another strength, and the Alakazam uses Future Sight, and we're able to take it out, finishing the fight. While I'd like to be able to celebrate our victory over Geki, we're not given much time for it, as Giovanni awaits in the president's office, looking for revenge after our last encounter in the Rocket Hideout. The thing is, I still have Leydude, so I'm not really worried, and I engage in the fight with the same plan as last time. We're obviously starting with Gyarados here, and we go with Surf on the Nidorino. Of course, it's not a ground type yet, so Surf doesn't kill in 1, and actually it doesn't even kill in 2. We thankfully don't get poisoned by the poison stings, and we're able to take the Nidorino out, and then get poisoned by Poison Point because of Bite's contact. He goes into the Rhyhorn, and I'm able to take it out with Surf without any issue, but I'm not loving the fact that we're poisoned here. Leydude levels up to 42, and then Giovanni sends out the Kangaskhan. We get hurt by poison, but I decide to at least do a little bit of damage on the Kangaskhan, going for Strength. We get Tail Whipped, which is a little scary in the case that it decides to hit us, so I decide to switch out and go over to Ryan, just to kind of get somebody in there who's a little bit better to risk. I go for Drill Peck just to see how much damage I can do, and Kangaskhan goes for Rage. At this point I know that I'm going to kill it, so I just take it out with the next Drill Peck. Giovanni sends in his last Pokemon with Nidoqueen, and I decide to go for another Drill Peck just to take the damage. Goes for Poison Sting and gets the poison, which is a little annoying, and I decided to go for another drill peck just to make sure that I can get the kill off. We're so low on health now that I decided to switch over to Cholby, just to avoid any unfortunate Delia type circumstance. The body slam gets the paralysis there, which is a little bit frustrating, but after the double kick, we go for the flamethrower. We don't get it because of the paralysis, but the second flamethrower is able to hit, and we take Giovanni out again. With Giovanni dealt with, we use an old man's computer to heal my Pokemon before they die, and he gives us a ball as a reward, which means it's time for us to fight Sabrina. With Delia's unfortunate passing, I decide to bring in Vaplord to deal with Sabrina. A risky strategy given his typing, but one that I feel confident is worth the risk. I don't have a way to evolve Vaplord, so I never really planned to use him much further than this point anyway, and I also have the feeling he's looking for a chance to prove himself. Although I don't want to see Vaplord die, the two of us come to the agreement that he'll stay out against Sabrina and do as much damage as he can until either he dies or her Pokemon do. Sabrina starts with the Kadabra, and with Vaplord I go for the Shadow Punch first, knowing that it should take it out in one hit, which it does. After the Kadabra, she sends out the Mr. Mime, so I go for Shadow Punch again. It almost takes the Mr. Mime out, but doesn't quite, and he uses Barrier to raise his defense, at which point Sabrina heals. With that defense buff, Shadow Punch only does about half HP, but I'm able to just hit it with another Shadow Punch and take the Mr. Mime out. After the Mr. Mime, the big boss Alakazam makes his appearance, and here I have to make a choice. I consider the Destiny Bond, but ultimately think that I'm going to be faster and go for the Shadow Punch, just on the odd chance that it kills. I think that it's worth it. Unfortunately, it doesn't kill, and we get hit by a Psychic, taking Vaplord out and sending him back to the afterlife. So I switch over to Leydude just to have somebody who can tank Alakazam's hits, and we go for Strength. Sabrina heals up the Alakazam first, and I'm wondering here if Strength is going to kill. It doesn't end up doing so, so I go for the second Strength. Psychic does a little more than I anticipated, but we're able to take the Alakazam out, and then Sabrina sends in the Venomoth. This thing doesn't really have anything it can do to us, so we just tank its hits, use Strength to take the Venomoth out, and that's our Sabrina encounter done. All in all, I think this was a pretty clean Sabrina, and although I could have played it a little better, it's probably the best I could have hoped for in the absence of my Shadow Ball TM. After holding a small memorial for Vaplord, we make our way straight to Route 21 and pick up Leffen the Tentacool, who I plan to include on the team when we face Blaine. On top of this, I decide to ignore Dupes Clause in Cinnabar Mansion and catch my first encounter there, Eradicate, who I named Delia the Younger. I also grab the Blizzard and Solar Beam TMs just in case, and pick up the secret key to make my way into Blaine's gym. Right now, I have a lot of water types, but because I want to keep Binch and Leydude safe, I decide to train up Leffen and lead with him against Blaine, answering his series of strange questions and starting off the battle confident that we have the party members necessary to deal with him. Blaine starts off with the Growlithe, and we send Leffen out. For our first move, we're going to use Surf, and actually we're only going to use Surf for this entire battle. It takes out the Growlithe in one hit, and Blaine sends out the Ponyta as a follow-up. We use Surf again, and take the Ponyta out in one hit. So after the Ponyta, Blaine sends out the Rapidash. We actually get the Surf off first, and it only takes one to knock out the Rapidash as well, leaving Blaine with only his Arcanine. Arcanine lowers our attack, but that means nothing to us, and we hit Surf again. It actually doesn't take the Arcanine out, but it misses a takedown, and as Blaine heals it up, we line up our next Surf. So we hit that Surf too. This one also doesn't take it out, leading me to believe that none of them would with this Tentacruel. But he Hyper Potions one more time, and we're able to use two Surfs just to finish off the Arcanine, finish off Blaine with the JV5. I'm feeling pretty good after that Blaine fight, and because there's nothing more for us to do beforehand, I take Leffen by the hand and head back to Viridian City in the 8th gym, where Giovanni awaits in Grand Finals. Giovanni starts off with the Rhyhorn, and we go for Surf with Leffen, utilizing the same strategy as against Blaine. We get the crit, which, while unnecessary, is to me something like an early Shine Spike on FD, and he brings out the Dugtrio. We take this out in one Surf as well, and establish a pattern that I think will hold true through most of the fight, before Giovanni brings out his second Rhyhorn. We don't need a crit to take this one out in a single Surf, so we get rid of that pretty easily, and we actually get the winner's run level up on Leffen, bringing him to level 51, before Giovanni sends out the Nidoqueen. The Nidoqueen goes down to one Surf as well, and Giovanni is left with nothing but his final Nidoking. We go for another Surf here, outspeed it, and take the Nidoking out with one Surf as well. And just like that, we head out of Viridian City Gym, having toppled a criminal mastermind with a jellyfish, and leaving Giovanni feeling much how I imagine Chillin' Dude must have felt after his and Leffen's Apex 2015 Salty Sweet. Same as after Blaine, there's not much for us to do before facing the Elite Four, and so I allow Leffen to rest on his laurels in Sweden and instead place Vod back on the team before facing off against Geki once again on Route 22. This is actually a pretty easy fight, and so I don't think it's necessary that I show it to you now, because we're going to be seeing him soon enough anyway. Moving toward Victory Road, I catch Moranblord the Slowpoke, and also pick up Petui the Onyx within the cave itself. Navigating Victory Road is a pretty uneventful experience as always, given you don't have to actually fight any of the trainers inside, but I do pick up the Dragonclaw TM and a few other items on my way up to Indigo Plateau. And here it is. We've made it to the end of the game, and although we had to sacrifice some dear friends to get here, we're just about ready to take our shot at the Elite Four. After a little leveling and item collection, I decide on the following team. Vod the Electrode, both to handle Lorelei and also to help with Lance and Geki. Binge the Starmie, to handle Bruno and Lance, and provide support pretty much everywhere else. Dill Pickle the Kadabra, mostly as a backup to Binge. Laydude the Gyarados, who will act as a pivot and as general support throughout the run. And Cholby, our starter, both to offer support and to clean up the odd ice or grass type. But this team still has one spot open, and without any incredible options in my box, I decide to head over to Viridian City one last time to catch Sari the Poliwhirl, who I immediately trade with Dante from the Devil May Cry series to receive Zinx the Jinx. This feels a little cheap, but Jinx is a good enough Pokemon that I feel there really wasn't another choice, so you're gonna have to forgive me for this one. So with the addition of Zinx, who can provide support on Lance and in our final fight with Geki, we're finally ready to take on Kanto's Elite Four. First up is Lorelei, who can be surprisingly tricky to overcome depending both on your team and your luck. She starts off with the Dugong, and we send Vod out just because most of her Pokemon are water types to begin with. The Dugong doesn't faint to the first Thunderbolt, but Safeguard doesn't really bother me, and as she uses the full Restore, we go for another Thunderbolt on Vod. This one doesn't kill either, but we're able to just take it out with a third Thunderbolt and get the Dugong out of the way. After the Dugong, she sends out the Cloyster, and it doesn't really matter what I use on this, so I use Spark just to conserve the Thunderbolt PP, and we take the Cloyster out in one hit, at which point she sends out the Slowbro. We go for the Thunderbolt on this too, and it doesn't kill, which is a little frustrating because we take a lot of damage from Surf. But luckily I've got the leftovers on Vod. I go for Screech anticipating a heal here, but she doesn't actually go for it, and we take a lot of damage from Surf because of it. I still take the Slowbro out with Spark, but at this point Vod is looking a little bit beat up, and Lapras is really strong, so I decide to switch off of Vod and head over to Laydude, just because he's going to be able to tank a lot of hits from the Lapras and hopefully deal with her. So we hit the Intimidate, Lapras hits us with a Surf, but the damage is negligible, and I've got a leftovers on Laydude as well. I go for the Dragon Dance just to buff Laydude up and make it more likely that I'm going to defeat the Lapras, but unfortunately we get confused. I go for Earthquake, and Laydude hits himself in confusion, which is hard because his attack is so beefed up already, but those leftovers help keep us competitive, and we hit Lapras with an Earthquake. It doesn't kill, but after that Ice Beam, we go for another Earthquake, and we're able to take the Lapras out. So Lorelei's only got her Jinx left, which she sends out against us now. And we heal up a bit with the leftovers before going for an Earthquake, which, with our buffed up attack, takes the Jinx out without an issue, and finishes Lorelei and the first leg of the Elite Four off for us. Next up is Bruno, and because this is our first time facing Bruno together, I want to sum up for you how I feel about him in 3 easy words. Bruno ain't shit. So, given that Bruno is arguably the strongest fighting type trainer in all of Kanto, he obviously starts with an Onix. But we start with Dill Pickle the Kadabra, and we take the Onix out with a single Psychic. After the Onix faints, Bruno sends out his Hitmonchan, and we go with a similar strategy using Psychic to take it out. And this is probably going to be our plan for the entire fight. So Bruno sends out a Hitmonlee next, and we hit it with another Psychic, and it stands no chance, fainting to a single one. After the Hitmonlee, Bruno sends out the second Onix that he keeps on his team just for fun, and we take it out with one Psychic. Leaving him with only one remaining Pokemon on his team, he sends the Machamp out, and this one is actually a little scary. It tanks the first Psychic and goes for a Bulk Up, which raises its attack and defense, but we don't really worry about defense here, and the Citrus Berry actually takes him out of heal range, at which point we deal with him with a single psychic and finish Bruno off. Yep, Bruno ain't shit. Next up is Agatha, a ghost-type trainer who is weirdly obsessed with young Professor Oak. Agatha starts off with a Gengar, and we send out Dill Pickle the Kadabra, planning to pretty much run through this with the same strategy we used against Bruno. We take the Gengar out with a single Psychic, which is a good sign, because that means the rest of the fight should be doable. She sends out the Golbat next, but it can't really do anything against the raw brain power and IQ of Dill Pickle, so we take that out with a single Psychic as well, and we also gain a level, which will be useful for us in the rival fight. She sends out an Arbok next, and it lowers our attack, but that doesn't really mean anything to us, so we take that out in a single hit as well, and we're sitting pretty for the rest of this fight. She sends out another Gengar, and this one is a bit of a problem in some cases, but not in this case, as we take it out in a single Psychic, and we have pretty much decided the fate of this match, because she sends out a Haunter, which of course is going to die in a single Psychic, and we get the crit just for flavor, and with that, we've beaten Agatha. Fourth and final among the Elite Four is Lance, who I hope to run through with Bench. Because I gave Thunderbolt to Vod and Shockwave to Dill, Bench is left with Thunder, and as Lance opens up with Gyarados, I make the first truly risky play of this Elite Four run. Luckily for us, the Thunder hits, and we take the Gyarados down in a single hit, and set ourselves up pretty well for the rest of the fight. Lance follows up with his first Dragonair, and we switch over to Ice Beam to take this one down in a single hit as well. Generally, these things are all going to go down to a single Ice Beam, but it depends on the situation, so it can still be a little scary. He sends out the second Dragonair hoping the result will change, but this one goes down to a single hit as well, and he's down to his last two Pokemon. He sends out his Dragonite next, which is a little scary because of its bulk, and it actually does live the Ice Beam, and goes for Outrage, which does scare me a little bit. But I've got a Citrus Berry on Bench, and with his Citrus Berry taking him out of heal range, we're able to take the Dragonite out with another Ice Beam, leaving him with just the Aerodactyl remaining on his team. For Aerodactyl, we go for Surf just to get Stab, and it does get an Ancient Power off, which scares me a little bit, but we're able to hit it with the Surf for super effective damage, take the Aerodactyl out, and finish Lance off. And with that, we have defeated all of the main Elite Four, and all that's left is for us to go forward and fight our rival and champion Geki. As I take the first steps into the Champion's Chamber, I'm reminded of all the Pokemon that helped me get here today, whether it be Delia, Vaplord, or Leffen the Pro Melee player, and I realize that this is what it's all about. This is what it's all been building toward. I decide to start with Bench because their moveset is pretty hard to beat, and I go for the Thunder on the Pidgeot to start things off. We actually get the hit, but it doesn't kill, and given it got the Paralyze, I know that Geki's going to be going for the heal next turn, and I decide to go for an Ice Beam just to get that 100% accuracy and make sure I get the hit. That doesn't kill either, but I get lucky again and get the Freeze, which allows me to take the Pidgeot out with a Surf from Bench. With the first Pokemon down, Geki for some reason decides to send the Arcanine out, getting an Intimidate that doesn't mean anything off before I use Surf. The Surf doesn't actually kill the Arcanine, which is a bit of a surprise to me, and it gets some meaty damage with a super effective bite, but we're able to take the Arcanine out with the second Surf, and we also gain a level, bringing Bench up to level 62. Geki sends out the Blastoise next, and though I consider going for the Thunder on it, I kind of want the Deathless Run, and I switch over to Vod just to keep my Bench safe. Blastoise goes for the bite, but with Vod still having the leftovers, it doesn't mean too much to us, and we go for a Thunderbolt to do some meaty damage. Blastoise hits a Hydro Pump that takes Vod out, and I'm immediately punished for my hubris. At this point, I decide to send Dill Pickle in, because I did decide to prepare the Shockwave TM on him. So I go for the Shockwave on the Blastoise, it doesn't actually kill, and he gets the Rain Dance up. So I go for a Psychic, just anticipating the full restore and wanting to see if that would do more damage. Psychic does end up doing quite a bit of damage, and we also get the special defense drop, so I just go for the second Psychic on the Blastoise, and we take it out with a critical hit. Geki sends out the Alakazam next, setting up an interesting fight between an Alakazam and its lesser Kadabra brother, and I decide to take this as a challenge. I set up Calm Minds knowing it's going to help me tank a lot of the hits from the Alakazam and also make it a little bit easier for me to take it out, and as I'm tanking those Psychic hits, I set up 3 Calm Minds. We take a decent amount of damage from Psychic here, but I decide that it's time for me to go. I go for Shockwave first just to see how much it's going to do, and it does a decent amount of damage. but we do get the special defense drop. And then I hit another shockwave and take the Alakazam out, proving that you don't always need to be a final evolution to see success. He sends out the Rhydon, but I use another Psychic on it, and it really stands no chance with the amount of special attack buffs that I have. And then he sends out his Executor. At this point, I know that I just kind of have to keep Dill Pickle in, so I just go for a Psychic to try to get as much damage as possible. And it does more than I would have thought, but unfortunately we lose the Mental Warrior Dill Pickle to the Executor's Egg Bomb, and we have to switch into Cholby. And using Cholby's Flamethrower, we're able to take the final shot against Geki, steal his throne, and become the new champion of the Kanto region. While it's a little disappointing to have lost some team members to my own hubris, I'm pretty excited to have this Nuzlocke finished, and Eric and I quickly make a few dumb jokes to celebrate.
Agatha do have a dumpy. What is that voice for Oak?
And we officially add our first hardcore Nuzlocke on this channel to the books. But don't worry, this is only the beginning. So in a way of closing, I was hoping you would all humor me for a minute or two while I talk about maybe a little bit about this video and also about what Mike and I plan to do in the future with this channel and this concept, because today obviously we kept it pretty simple with a normal hardcore Nuzlocke. And as you could see, like Fire Red and Leaf Green is an easy game, and I was able to have a good time and finish it off without losing too much. Of course, Mike had a little bit more of a difficult time, rest in peace, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that while I had a lot of fun with this, we would like to take it a little further. So from here on out, we definitely want to make a lot of content for Fire Red and Leaf Green. Not just Fire Red and Leaf Green, but really all of the Pokemon games that we enjoy. But Fire Red and Leaf Green I think is going to be our focus here at the beginning, because it's the game we know the best, it's a game we really enjoy, and it's a game that frankly is easy to do challenge runs in. So in terms of the future of this channel, and what's coming next after this first video, after this inauguration of the PokePhenomenal channel, our big plan is to do some more challenge runs, some monotype hardcore Nuzlocks, some randomizers. We also plan to do some tier list videos, some ranking videos, talking about Fire Red and Leaf Green and some other topics. We also might bring some other people in with us to do that. I know that this is kind of a long-winded and very random layout of all that we're planning to do, but the thing is, Mike and I don't have a very directed plan. We're not coming into this saying this is the type of run we're going to do it in this order. Really, we're just doing something we enjoy doing, and we're trying to present it in a way that will be entertaining for you to watch. So in pursuit of that, I want to put out a call now here as we start the channel. If there's anything you see that you think could be done better, or anything that you think works really well, any kind of feeling that you have, any kind of comment, or any kind of idea that you have in watching these early videos, I would urge you, please, just like let us know. Like we want to do this to both have fun ourselves with something that we like doing, and also put out some content that's fun for people to watch, maybe interesting for people to take in and enjoy. Because I think Nuzlocks and challenge runs in Pokemon, as they become more popular right now, are offering people a lot of really interesting stories and a lot of really interesting experiences. And Mike and I would really like to become a part of that and share some of our experiences with everyone. That being said, I want to put out a big thank you for watching this video if you have, and I would urge you, please, if you could subscribe and stick around. We're definitely going to be putting more videos out like this, and we're going to be putting out some different kinds of videos. So if you want to see that type of Pokemon challenge content, want to see where we can go with it, and if you want to see more of Mike, because he was unfortunately not very present for this run, I'd really appreciate it, and we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. That's going to be it for the call. That's going to be it for the call to action and all of that. I hope that you guys enjoyed that, and I hope that you guys will stick with us as we kind of develop this concept and see what kind of videos we want to make. But I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate you checking this video out. So thank you so much, and stay phenomenal.